Well, welcome again to the workshop of Wood Spun Round. This is Doug. It is good to have you with me today. It's been a little bit, there's been some issues going on, but you guys, you have been faithful, and I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I've been out of town a bit, and well, it's just, just things happen. This project tried to fight me. I thought it was going to be simple and quick and easy. It should have been up a week ago, but I ran into some issues that I'll tell you about as we get there. I've got on the lathe there a piece of pear. This is some of the pear that was given to me, the tree that was given to me back in the spring, and I'm just starting to cut some more of it. I've been letting it dry. It's quite a bit drier. It's not dry yet. It's still got some moisture in it, but it's not cracking. It is drying very, very nicely, and you'll see lots of really nice curls coming off. Pear just cuts so nicely. It's just a joy to work, almost as nice as apple. But anyway, it's a nice wood, and I'm using it for this yarn dispenser. This is a spinning yarn dispenser. I got the idea from Scot Grant, the blue light turner. He is over in England. Does some fun projects, and this is one of his fun projects that I thought, I kind of like this idea. Everybody does yarn bowls, but this is a yarn dispenser, and it spins around. There are two pieces to the base, and between those two pieces there is a small Lazy Susan bearing that goes in there. I'll show you more about where that goes here in just a few moments. Right here I'm getting a recess so that I can turn this around. I'll have the bottom pretty well completed so that I can turn around and turn the top. So I'm just turning the recess there using my bowl gouge. I will clean it up with the skew, but for the most part, 99.9% of it is done with the bowl gouge. Just a couple of quick passes. Here I've got my 1/2 inch skew, and I'm just getting that edge, getting a slight dovetail on the edge so that the jaws can grip it real well. You see some outer lines there. If I remember right, I trimmed down to that on this base. This is just kind of really the beginning of it. There I've not completed it, but I've got it turned around. I'm going to do some axe sanding paste, not turned around. I've got it completed on the outside, the bottom and the sides. I'm going to use this axe abrasive paste. And there is a discount code. I think I just had it there on the screen. If you want to try out axe, the abrasive paste, and the polishing restoring paste, which is a wax, a Carnauba based wax, there is a discount code, Doug15, when you go to checkout. And like I said, maybe you just want to try it out, or maybe you need to resupply your stock. Doug15 will get you 15% off. Just applying a little bit of second coat of wax here. There was still a little wax on the paper towel. I'd laid it off to the side just because I wanted to do this. So I've put some on, I've buffed it off. I'm putting a little bit more on, just light, thin coats, and then come back and buff it off. It seems like I was buffing this at about 14 to 1600 RPMs. Fairly quick. It's not as fast as the lathe will go by any means, but it's fast enough for this, and it was very comfortable. In fact, I'm pretty sure I may have sped it up to 1600 at one point, just buffing this wax. I've turned it around here. I'm turning the inside. And first thing I want to do is start working on first flattening the inside, or the top side of it, and then I'm going to turn just a small recess for the bearing to sit down into. This bearing is, like I said, it's a Lazy Susan bearing. It's 2.5 inches, something of that nature, pretty small. And so it'll sit in just a small recess here on the top. What I found was that one issue, you cannot make the recess for the Lazy Susan bearing too deep. If you make it too deep, your top half and bottom half will hit, and it won't spin nicely because of the friction between the two halves. So right there, I'm just marking out the bearing on the wood. I drilled it through. I didn't need to, but I drilled it through for my wormwood screw. And so that's the hole that you see there. And there I'm just darkening my lines so I can see them easier. I want to make a circular line around the outside of that so that I know where to turn the recess to. You see two lines there. I marked one and decided that was further out than I really needed. And so I came back and marked another line inside of that, which was much closer to what was needed. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I had a boo-boo here. I turned this recess a little too deep. So what I had to do is go back, had to take the bearing off of this piece, take it back to the large disc sander and sand down. Oh goodness, wasn't any more than about a 1/16 of an inch, maybe just a hair over a 1/16 of an inch, just so that I wasn't quite so deep. I'd done it just a hair too deep, both on the bottom half and the top half. The top half on this bottom half I was able to turn it off, but on the top half I had to sand it because I did not have a way to re-grip it. So what you see here is not my finished product. I did have to go back and take off. I mean, I took a whisper off, maybe 2 whispers off of it is all I took off. About the same on the top half as well, but I did that on the sander. Just getting a nice clean cut. This recess really needs to be pretty flat across the bottom, not domed and not concave, just pretty well flat, so that the bearing has a good solid foundation to sit on. Just taking a nice clean cut there. Didn't want to have to do a whole lot of sanding. Pretty much have it done, so I just want to clean up this outer rim. It's not going to be seen once everything is put together, but I just want it to be nice and clean so that there's nothing between the two halves that causes it to not turn smoothly and very nicely. Also don't want a real sharp edge right there on the corner, so I'm kind of chamfering off that corner there just a hair. Saw me put my thumb on it. If it cut me, it was still too sharp, but it wasn't too sharp because you can see I kind of go on here. Just check it again. I did a little more. Then I'll go with the sandpaper, get it all cleaned up and ready to go. Turning it down from 14 or 1600 to about 500 to do my sanding. Because there are 3 pieces to this project, there's a good bit of speed changes, of chuck changes, all kinds of things. So it's not going to be unusual to see me changing things around. This is the second piece. This will be the top half. And I'll go ahead and tell you now, I don't think I show it later. This is not the piece that ends up being the top half of the base. I actually turned the top too thin, and when I ran my screws in, they came out the top side. At least 3 of the 4 screws went out the top side. And I thought, I could sand that and be okay, put some smaller screws in there. But even though this was a proof of concept, just a prototype, I decided not to do that. But you saw the process there. It's the same as the other side. Turn one side, get a recess in it, then turn the other side. Not very difficult whatsoever. This one, however, only gets a recess on one side. The recess that I'm in right now, that I'm holding the piece by right now, is the recess that will hold the bearing. You can see right there a little bit of an oops. I did not have it in very tight, and so it popped right out. It's very shallow, but it's not so. It's deep enough that the jaws will grip it very, very well. In fact, you're going to see me tighten up probably 3 times. Okay, let's count that as 1 because I loosened. I'm going to turn it. Lock it in. And here we go, number 2. turn it a little more, lock it. There's tightening number 3. So I've tightened it pretty well. I'm not cranked down on it, and I put all my weight into it, but I've tightened it pretty well, pretty tight. There's a lot of wood outside of that recess. So here again, just cleaning it up. Gonna put a little shape on it. And even though this isn't the same one I end up using, it's the same process. Started off on a wormwood screw, get the bottom done with the recess, turn it around, and do the top. And the hole that is there for the wormwood, that will be on my spindle that holds the yarn. I will put a tenon on that'll glue into that hole. Just feeling that curve, I see what I'm seeing, but I want to feel it as well. Try to figure out exactly where the lumps and the bumps are, and where I want to clean it up. I can see a little ridge even in this from this view, and I think I come back here in just a second and clean that up even. But I know I'm going to sand. We're always going to sand, and we started out the sanding on this project. All 3 pieces started with 100 grit. We go sand all the way up to 320, and then I used my Axe abrasive paste, and then the Axe polishing and restoring paste. Don't forget, if you're going to try it or you need to replenish your stock of Axe, use Doug 15. Feel free to use that. Tom wants me to encourage people, please use it. He wants to give away that 15%. He can't really afford it, but that's what he wants to do. That's a little sanding sealer there after the sanding, just to kind of seal the wood up a little bit. Putting the Axe on here, and even the, I don't know if this is that's the wax is what no, that's the abrasive paste. Even the abrasive paste really brings out the colors in the wood, and it's lovely wood. Lovely wood. And the Axe products just help bring out that natural beauty. What I really like about the sanding paste is the absence of the dust. I can sand up to 320. That's all your coarse sanding dust. From 320 up, that's when it starts getting finer and begins to get more dangerous in your lungs. There is still some controversy about wood dust and how dangerous it is. I'm going to err on the side of caution. I personally don't feel like wood dust is all that harmful as long as you don't smoke. When I was doing some research on this, found some really good articles by some lung surgeons who asked the questions of their patients. Are you a smoker? When they came in with lung issues and it was kind of obvious they had sawdust in their lungs, they would ask, a couple of these guys would ask their patients, are you a smoker? And if they were, that's when they had all the problems. People who did not smoke, their lungs tended to clean themselves. But I'm not taking that chance. I'm going to err on the side of caution and use the abrasive paste. There's no dust, and it takes you to that 1,000 grit level or higher. Enough said about that. And that's not for really for discussion or debate. That's just my feelings on it. You may have totally different feelings, and that's okay. We've gone to the spindle here, and this is oak. Started off with the spindle roughing gouge. Now I'm using a skew, my big skew, just to kind of smooth it up and begin to make some of the markings and some of the beginnings of shaping this spindle. I took mine down to about 1 inch from top to bottom with some shape in there. I would suggest going a little bit smaller. 1 inch is just a little bit big. I put a flame on the top of mine. Again, that flame is just a little thick and heavy. I would suggest no larger than 3/4. Maybe maybe even smaller at the top. Maybe the bulk of it maybe 1/2 to 3/4 in your very top, your flame at the very top of the spindle, or finial if you want to call it that. Even smaller. because you want it to slide through a skein of yarn from bottom to top. You want to sit the skein down so that the knitter or the crocheter can pull the yarn, and that skein will spin on this dispenser. I'll come up with a better term than a spinning yarn dispenser, I guess. Or maybe you've got a better term for it. You can tell me. Put it in the comments. I'd be glad to see somebody's suggestion on what to call this thing. At the very beginning, you saw a picture of it without the skein of yarn was beside it, not on it. At the end, there are a couple of pictures with the yarn on the dispenser. And it looks good. It was not easy to put that yarn on there. It's not easy to pull it off if it needed to be changed. And so that's why I suggest having a smaller finial that this yarn sits down on. You don't want it too ornate. You don't want it plain. You're making these primarily for ladies, and they don't like plain. They like things that have form and shape to them. So make them nice, but don't go overboard with this thing. I've got a bit of a spool detail at the bottom, just a little bit of an onion above that tapers and comes back up to the flame. Like I said, I wish my flame was about half the size of what it is, or even smaller as far as diameter. The height is fine. It could have been possibly, if I'd made it thinner and a little bit longer, I think it would have been more elegant. As it is, it just looks kind of blunt and duh to me. I'll be working on that for the next one, I'm sure. Again, going through the sanding process, 100 grit all the way up to 320 grit, and then I will use the Axe abrasive paste and the polishing and restoring wax. Tom Ackley, the maker of Axe, has reformulated that polishing restoring paste, and he's now putting in twice as much Carnauba wax as he was using. Just changed the ratio there, and by doubling the Carnauba, which is the hardest natural wax that we know of, it should be a brighter, longer lasting shine. I just wanted to show you this. I don't like to show a lot of sanding, but I wanted to show you this. What that is a sanding mandrel, just a homemade sanding mandrel that is then put into a leftover tenon. I took a leftover tenon and I drilled a hole that was the right size or barely under the right size for this sanding mandrel. And then I took it to the bandsaw and cut a slit in it. Then when I go to use it, I'll put that slit between two of the jaws. When I tighten the jaws down, it tightens that tenon down on this mandrel. And so I have this homemade manual, shop-made, I forgot, the word just left my head. Mandrel, that's what I'm looking for. The shop-made mandrel, and it has Velcro on it, just simply glued on. Then I can put that in the lathe and use it. I can hold the piece, whether it's the bottom of the bowl or a finial of some kind, and I can go through my grits fairly quickly this way. There, I've just gone through 2 or 3 grits right there, just getting the very tip of this spindle done. Here it's been glued into the lid or the top half of the base, and I'm just finishing up my sanding. I didn't quite finish before, and actually I went through the ends. I didn't mean to take it out from between centers as early as I did, but then I thought, well, I'll put it in the top half. Then of course I went through it with the screws. This is still the original one. No, it's not. This is the new top half, and I actually had it glued in, but I didn't glue it in well enough, or I did glue it in well enough. I started doing this final sanding too quickly. It wasn't quite dry. I got in too big a hurry. So it comes off, and I had to re-glue it again. So I've had several issues here, but nothing that couldn't be overcome. Just keep going. You think about what you're doing, think about what needs to be done, and you persevere. Getting my abrasive paste again. This is the third time. We had or actually the fourth time. We had the bottom half, the top half again. Now the finial, all getting the Axe abrasive paste. Just simply rubbing it in. Then we'll start at about 200, run it for a little while, working that paste into the wood, letting the abrasiveness work. Hey, just wanted to take a second before we end this video just to share with you some exciting news. Just in the last couple of days, got the notification that we hit 750. I've been sitting at 751 for a couple of days now, so I feel fairly comfortable going ahead and making the announcement. We will be having the 750 giveaway. I know one of the prizes that will be in the mix, but I haven't decided on the other yet, and I will share that with you in the next video. So tell you what, as you make your comments on this video, if you will make a comment 750, nothing else, just 750, 750, and that'll get you into the drawing for the two prizes that we're going to have. I look forward to having the next video. It's going to be a couple of weeks because my wife and I are taking a few days, in fact all of next week, to get some rest and to get some fresh apples from the mountains of North Carolina. I'm excited about that. So we'll be out for the week, but right after that, as soon as we get home, I will crank up another project and I will share with you what it is that will be the prizes, both of the prizes that we'll have for this giveaway. So between now and then, be sharing the video out, get some more people involved. And I'll tell you now, we're going to have one at 1,000. So 750, we've hit our mark. We've got one prize already lined up. A second prize will be lined up by the time I make the next video and the announcement there. So between now and then, make your comment. Only one entry per person, so we'll eliminate the duplicates, but you get yours in and we'll be glad to have you. We want all the folks that we can to be a part of this giveaway. I look forward to it. 750 in the comments underneath the video. Thanks.